G'day and welcome to the Off-Chain Podcast. Don here with you, and our guest today is Misha Lederman, CMO at Sweat Economy, home of Sweatcoin, and it's 120 million plus registered users. This killer user adoption represents the biggest onboarding in the history of Web3. And so we're really excited to talk to Misha about his experience in Web3, why marketing needs to be more data-driven, how Sweat Economy drives user community engagement, and heaps more. Let's dive in. How did you get started in Web3 marketing? What's your kind of origin story in Web3?
That is a long answer to a short question. I'll try to make it as brief and as pointy as I can. Yeah. I grew up in a theater. My father is a theater chief since I was 2 years old.
All right.
Yeah. So communication, messaging, whether it was Molière, Chekhov, or any other absolutely Gogol, Dostoevsky. These were the people that essentially I grew up around from a very, very small age, and ever since it's taken me down the path of communication, whether I was an educator or worked in many different roles for education and communication and then marketing. I found Bitcoin in 2017, and as many of us do, went down the rabbit hole, focused heavily on Bitcoin for the first few years, and Web3 grew into me, and I went full on in the industry around 2018-19, and haven't turned back since, and helped a lot of projects reach mass market, worked with as a director of communications and marketing for Clever, a big blockchain ecosystem that came out of Brazil for many years, and grew it from around 15,000 users to over 4 million. And wow. That was the point where I was then introduced to a new ecosystem, which is Sweat, where the user numbers already eclipsed 10 million, and the goal is not 100 million or not even 500 million, but it's 1 billion.
All right. And
I think that that scale is what really attracts me and always wanted and always pushed me to go further into Web3 and especially into the growth and education and the marketing of blockchain.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. So I was also a 2017 cohort into Web3, but you didn't go.
Brothers in arms.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Whereas for me, I was like, I've missed the Bitcoin train. I better get in on Ethereum and all the other ones. But for you, it was mostly Bitcoin early on. What did you see in Web3? What did you see in Bitcoin that was attractive to you or interesting to you, coming from a communications background?
Well, actually, it started long before Bitcoin was even created. I did my bachelor's in Stockholm, Sweden, where I was born and raised, in political economy. And I actually wrote about the balance between, my thesis was around the balance between security on one hand and civil liberties on the other. So a lot about privacy, a lot about infringement on civil liberties from the government. And this was prior to Bitcoin actually coming out in 2009. So this is in 2008, and already I was touching on these subjects. And when I then found Bitcoin and the crypto industry, finally felt like it was a tool that could safeguard rights from infringement, from power and abuse of power. So it was very, very, I would say it was a match made in heaven for me as someone who very much sympathized with the libertarian view of life, and the fact that we all have certain inalienable rights and freedoms that cannot be taken away. And ownership, of course, of assets is one very, very, very important aspect of that. So the fact that inflation was going up while Bitcoin was steadily printing and minting, at a halving rate, was very attractive to me. The finite supply of the base layer of Bitcoin. And I, of course, understood that whatever we build on top of it, perhaps not a layer 2 on Bitcoin, but essentially if we can safeguard the crypto industry with this basic gold 2.0 asset in Bitcoin, then whatever else is built, which today, of course, we can see, how many EVMs, how many thousands of chains, whether it's we're talking about Solana or Polygon or anything else, and we are always in a safe place because Bitcoin can never go away from its software.
Sure.
It's essentially software written in stone, just like Moses on the mountain. And we cannot break the tablets like he did the first time around.
So philosophical attraction to Web3 intrinsically before it even existed.
For sure. I already was very involved and keen in these issues, and knew instinctively that this was the industry that I wanted to delve deeper into it. And once you start going to conferences, once you start meeting people on whether it was crypto Twitter back then, crypto Twitter today is perhaps not. It's more filled with meme coins and less usefulness, perhaps. Then there was a lot of, I would say, enthusiasm around new technology and scalability and ways to ensure privacy around data, which is even more interesting now that we come to a point of, here in Sweat, where we actually work a lot around data, and our scale already ensures that we have to protect the data of millions of people around the world. So we cannot really do that around any other system but blockchain. So it's a match made in heaven, for sure.
Well, let's talk about Sweat. Why Sweat economy? You mentioned it a little bit earlier. How does that, again, perhaps for you personally, but then obviously we want to talk about it more generally as well. What interested you about working with Sweat? What is it? We should start with that. What is it?
What is Sweat? That's a great question. Well, first of all, let's go a little bit of history. 10 years ago, Sweat Coin was created as the first, I would say, move and reward app in the world. It has scaled today until 164 million users. And through Sweat Coin, which is our partner app and our movement validator today, Sweat was born. And Sweat is comprised of three pillars. Is the Sweat Foundation, which is the team and the DAO around the world, the decentralized autonomous organization that manages the Sweat wallet, which is the software and the gateway for our users to interact with the ecosystem, and the treasure management of Sweat, the token, which really is capturing the value of movement. And that is our mission. What we do is we capture the value of movement because we understand that movement is not just beneficial to us, but it's an actual asset in and of itself. And it's really one of the most interesting assets in crypto because intuitively we all understand that movement has value. Correct?
Yeah. So it's necessary.
Yes, it's necessary, surely. Otherwise, we'll all be sitting on the couch and slowly becoming Wally. And that kind of world is both frightening and something that we cannot work towards. So Sweat comes with a very simple value proposition. Movement has value, and it has not only value to you as a person, or to your family, or to your healthcare provider, or to your doctor, or to your health insurer, or to brands like Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, or other third parties that are interested in very health conscious population. But on a bigger scale, it has, of course, huge benefits for society and local governments as well as national governments in healthcare cost savings, in making sure that people don't go and get early diabetes, which in and of itself is $1 trillion industry, unfortunately today. And we believe that movement as an asset should be captured, tokenized, and we do that by today counting steps through pedometers and in the future through other movement validators as well.
All right. So what about, I mean, there are so many different aspects of that, but what about that attracted you in particular in the first place?
So first of all, not just the value proposition that movement has value. I'm a former football player from Sweden. I played professionally in Djurgården for many years. And fitness, health has always been a very important part of my life personally. But I felt when I was approached by Sweat for the CMO position in the company, that this is probably the only avenue to reaching 1 billion users in Web3, where literally you have a free-to-use app in Sweat Wallet. Anyone can download it and anyone can start earning simply by walking. You have an asset that everybody understands has value. The only question is how much, right? And we'll get into that later on how we actually achieve getting dollar value on something that perhaps can be as abstract and fleeting as movement or physical activity. But most importantly is about the scale that Sweat has already achieved. Today, we're top dApp on dApp radar. We have between 2.5 and 3 million MAU, so monthly active users on the Sweat wallet. While on the on-chain side of things, we actually have between 1.5 and 1.9 million monthly on-chain active users that use Sweat the token for on-chain transactions every month. And that scale, someone who's been in crypto for a while, both you and I know is kind of unheard of in crypto. And yeah, it's absolutely massive, right? I remember, just a few years ago, just seeing, Bitcoin, Tron, and Ethereum essentially were the three, or maybe even Binance Smart Chain, depending on the time, before Solana was a big phenomenon. Very rarely one of these chains could reach 1 million users on that time frame. So seeing that scale while understanding the value proposition that anyone can join around the world, as long as you have the will to move and a desire to improve, then I saw an opportunity to scale something from we have around 14 million downloads today on Sweat Wallet after a year and 10 months after launch. And if we have around 3 million users on the monthly active basis right now, opening the app, given the value proposition and the know-how team, the experience that sits here, and the universal appeal of improving health around the world, I saw an opportunity to join a stellar team to really do some fantastic work and spread health, wealth, and making sure that people actually not only improve their health, but also value their health in all forms.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. That's a good vision. Are the people who are using the app, are these Web3 natives largely? Like, do they understand blockchain, or they just see, I can download an app, move, it gives me rewards? What's kind of the typical user?
Fantastic question. So most of our users are actually crypto curious. They're kind of new to crypto. They don't really know a lot of the lingo. They don't know what HODL is. They don't know what BIDL is, which is kind of exciting as someone who's a communicator at heart, because it's all about simplifying our message. But at the same time, we are also making sure that these people who are relatively new to the industry are able to learn how to transact, how to receive, how to trade, but also how to vote in the dApp. So in Sweat Wallet, we're mobile, not first, we're mobile only. Of course, if we are a movement app that aims to build out an economy around movement, we clearly cannot, attach a laptop to someone's hip
Sure.
and see how many steps they take. So that also comes with a lot of benefits for bot activity, which essentially is eliminated because of mobile only, making sure that we have a DAO system that is now the most active DAO in the world. Just last 2 months, we've had 2 separate votes being above 150,000 individual voters in the DAO, and the latest vote was to change the minting window from before it was 0 to 5,000 steps a day. You mint sweat. One sweat takes around 6,700 steps to mint, and you mint between 0 and 5,000. But now we asked the community, of course, I listened to their feedback, and they believe that it's more important to encourage more movement, not just get off the couch movement. So the proposal was, do we stay with 0 to 5,000, or do we go from 3,000 to 1,000 to 10,000 for minting sweat? And if you're also a Sweat coin, our Web2 partner app, if you're a premium user there, you can also mint from 3,000 to 20,000 steps.
Right.
The DAO proposal went through. After just a 2-week period, we reached 154,000 voters total, and 70% of them said yes to it. And this proposal will actually go live today. And that is not even a record in terms of how many voters we've had in the past. A year ago, roughly, it was 350,000 on what should be done with previously burnable amount of sweat, and essentially to burn it or now. Decided, of course, users love to burn, so burn, baby, burn. But what's cool here is that we can introduce new elements of decentralized, even crowdsourcing wisdom. So what we did over the past half year is we actually partnered up with 3 universities and a think tank in the world, University of Birmingham, University of Cadiz, Glasgow, and a Hamburg-based think tank, to explore the economic value of an active day. And we equate that to 10,000 steps. So what does academia and experts say how much movement is actually valued at once they go into the data? So in different approaches, different methodologies, whether it is around healthcare cost savings, whether it's quality of life, whether it is around mobility, you can reach an actual dollar number. And I'm not going to share it with you right now, but I do have all the 3 research reports right here. And in September, we're going to have a big event in Singapore where we're actually releasing the numbers. But regarding our users, what we did with one of these projects, Cadiz, and specifically Cadiz and Glasgow University, is that they asked, but what about your users? You have scale, you have millions of users. Can we ask them what's their perceived value of walking 10,000 steps a day? So we said, of course. We have a very active DAO. And so we essentially last month did the world's largest crowdsource of wisdom through a DAO. And 157,000 estimates came in from 124,000 individuals. And that actually, those numbers are public. So the median estimate of an active day is $6.20 from people around the world. And I think one of the coolest things about the Sweat ecosystem is that we can experiment and we can ensure that people who haven't touched blockchain before understand the value of it, whether it is to play a game, watch an ad in order to take down your blockchain fees, understand what are blockchain fees and why are they there. Things that perhaps if you haven't been in crypto before, something that I have to have a learning curve to. And also, of course, even getting them into deep waters of like, okay, well, be part of our DAO. Doesn't matter whether you have 1 sweat or 1 million sweat, you have 1 vote per token holder, and just use the mobile app as a very mature product to engage with the community.
Oh man, there's so much I want to unpack there. In particular, I mean, you probably can't say, obviously, but maybe you can say this. Were you surprised at how similar or different the collective wisdom of 10,000 steps a day from the crowdsourced information was compared to the experts? Was that a surprising difference or similarity without going into details, giving it away?
Don, that is such a poignant question, and it's so good because it is, without revealing too much, some of the research results are extremely similar to the crowdsourced wisdom vote. And even before we actually went live with this, the professor from Glasgow and the Dr. Borka from University of Cadiz, they said, well, we actually believe that, and we have some proven examples, case studies of this, that the crowdsourced wisdom would probably be more accurate long term than the expert's opinion. And it's something that they've seen in the past as well, not just with movement. Well, like I said, I cannot make these numbers public because it is NDAs and we're working with universities and there's press releases that are already waiting embargo. But some of these numbers are very close to the estimate. Some of them are a little bit lower, but some of them are a lot higher, which is quite interesting given that if you then see 10,000 steps today, it's probably valued, if you just see it as a token and tokenized movement in Sweat, it is today valued at around 1 cent for 10,000 steps.
Gotcha.
But if the crowdsource wisdom says 620, then there is a lot of work to be done in order to kind of close that gap. And to give a bit of a brief understanding of what's the main difference between Sweatcoin, the Web2 partner app of ours, and Sweat, is that Sweatcoin is a simple, straightforward health and fitness app that encourages people to move more and have an in-app currency for a reward system, while Sweat is the fulfillment of the vision to go into crypto and blockchain in order to build a movement economy platform. Mm-hmm. And that is, of course, an entire subject of itself. And what is an economy of movement? What is an economy of attention? What is an economy of, creator economy, attention economy, movement economy? And as we see it, movement is not only a valuable asset, but it should be used as a currency as well. So if you move, you should be part of an ecosystem where you can get eventually premium healthcare, a discount on your health insurance, offers from third parties in sports, wellness, health, for products that perhaps other people that do not contribute to society in a way of moving your body and essentially proving to these entities and actors and partners of ours that I do put in the work, kind of proof of work and proof of sweat.
Yeah, man, that's so interesting from thinking about big data, which you mentioned before, thinking about how, what kinds of data, and again, the privacy component of that is such a big deal as well. Thinking about let's say if we zoom out a little bit and go, you mentioned government, medical professionals, insurance companies, that kind of stuff. People, stakeholders or people in those categories, obviously they have themselves a financial incentivization or incentive to have healthy people on their books or as their citizens, for example, and not just financial from a kind of citizen perspective or thinking about a government. They want a healthy population for many reasons, so they could be productive, so they're not only not a drain on the system and on the healthcare and costing money, but also they are net contributors and givers and positive actors in a community, and surely a healthier individual will be an influence on the people around them to also be healthier or make healthier decisions. So you've got the cumulative effects and compounding effects there.
Don, it seems clearly you understand our value proposition. Perhaps you want to come work at Sweat.
Well, what I'm trying to understand is how does a government understand? How does a government engage in that marketplace? Maybe that's the question I'm trying to ask. If they understand, say the market wants $6.20 per 10,000 steps, the experts rate it at another kind of value. How does a government come to see that value and then actually engage in that value or engage in that marketplace? What kinds of things are there currently ways that that's happening, or are there ways that you're planning on engaging in that regard? Or do people see the value? Do government in particular and insurance providers see that value at this stage?
That's a fantastic question. And it is more of a question of the future. Right? No one has ever attempted to build a movement economy. It's never really been a concept. It's never been an idea that we should build an economy where the incentives around movement is so tangible and so attractive that everybody wants to be part of it, whether it's to take a walk, run, or do a yoga class, right? So governments, as you know, and as we were talking about before, are quite slow movers.
Sure.
They're usually quite inefficient movers as well. And they're usually the last movers. So at the moment, it is very important not just to understand that the steps ahead are massive, but they can be calculated as well. So the first thing to understand is that movement has value. We all know that. It is valuable to us as individuals. Like you said, it is value on the industry level, right? For corporate wellness, productivity goes up. Absenteeism goes down essentially when people are absent for work. And then a third one, which is quite interesting, which I find fascinating, is presenteeism, which essentially you come to work, but you just sit and do nothing. So if you are a healthier, more moving person, and you are more physically active, you are likely to excel in all those three. Right? So that's an industry incentive. On the government incentive, it's very much around the fact that healthcare cost savings would be in the billions, and in some countries, even in the trillions. Depending on the size of your economy. Just like we're talking about diabetes 2 prevention, Sweatcoin, our Web2 partner app, has a long-standing partnership with NHS, where we have pilot programs for diabetes 2 prevention. And it is showing that roughly 90% of participants are essentially able to have a better medical outcome if they use our ecosystem of apps, which essentially incentivizes them to move, and therefore they can prevent falling into the trap of diabetes 2. How do we prove to governments that you shouldn't just build a new pool or a new subsidized gym or an outdoor gym? It's much more than that. You can actually invest into individuals' pockets by making sure that they move more. Why? Because we are able to capture the value of movement through sweat. This is a long-term plan. This is not going to happen tomorrow or even next year. And the pillars that we stand on in terms of incentivizing governments to be part of the movement economy has to go through first, in my opinion, academia, to get in front of policymakers on a local level, and only then on the national level. And we are already in discussions with international organizations around health. I'm not going to mention exactly which ones, but of course they're very interested in our value proposition and seeing a huge upside in what we're doing in order to have an ecosystem of our size with already 2.5 to 3 million people opening our app every month. It is, and that's only in the Web3 side of things, right? In the Web2 side of things, the Sweatcoin, we are actually the world's most downloaded health and fitness app in the world. The past 3 million downloads, and they come directly into an ecosystem of rewards around the app. And if they want to opt into crypto, they can do that already. Essentially, from users of the Sweat wallet. So there is a connection between Web 2 and Web 3 that I think movement can unlock, that also brings a lot of legitimacy. And like you said, having a more healthier population for governments is of interest to them, because the more productive we are, healthier we are, the less strain on the healthcare system will be, the less diabetes and cardiovascular diseases we'll have. But also, the more productive we are, the more taxes we pay, the more goods we buy, the more services we provide. So there is a huge incentive around that, and it is definitely part of our plans. But we also understand that governments are slow movers and often the last movers. That's why we decide to be the movement of it.
Yeah, man, that's great. What a good vision too. what kind of ways are you thinking about? I mean, obviously, if you've got that many users producing like a lot of data, how are you thinking about the privacy factor where, say, I'm a user, my employer, my insurance provider, my local government, and state or national government all might be interested in me, and I might be very happy to share that information with various people if they're going to be incentivized to incentivize me in that regard. But then when you have tens of thousands and millions of users, you also get really great data as well. In what kinds of ways are you, maybe you personally thinking, having come into Web3 with that kind of philosophical alignment, how is Sweat thinking about that philosophically, and what does that look like materially in terms of what happens with the data and how you're protecting users and those kinds of things?
Another great question, Don. I think we need to start at the data protection philosophy that we have at Sweat, which is very rigorous, and we of course are following all the regulation around GDPR. We make sure that all our servers are in Europe, which has the most strict laws around data protection. We only collect pedometer data, essentially only step data from our users, which makes our life a lot more easy. We don't know age, gender, social status, and so on, phone numbers of our users, which of course is in line with the philosophy of Web3, of privacy. However, we do enable is if someone wants to share their data with us, we are more than happy to receive it. For instance, in this one of the research papers that is now going to use the DAO crowdsource of wisdom that was just happened inside the app, they said, during discussion, okay, well, we're going to need a lot of data on the people who actually vote. We said, well, that's not possible. We don't have any data on our users. Yeah. That's not in line with the Web3 standards or Web3 values. And their first question was, what is Web3? So there's a bit of a learning curve on the academic side as well. But we actually found a really, really interesting way around it. So part of the DAO vote was to ask our users who voted and who estimated the value of an active day, 10,000 steps, to, if they so choose, to give us their age, gender, and education level for a number one, waiver of the blockchain fee for the DAO vote, and a little reward in Sweat. And around 41% of more than 100,000 people that voted decided to do that, which, yes, that was my reaction as well. Wow. I did not expect that such a high percentage would use that, but now suddenly we also have a statistically verifiable model of our user base. But once again, this is the choice of the user. If they so choose, they can do that. And our vision in building and leading the building of a movement economy is eventually to go through essentially 6 stages. So number one is the purchase goods and services through your verified physical movement, Sweat, through our partners, through the marketplace, and through the rewards hub inside the app. Then we want to make sure that our users can access premium healthcare, whether it's fitness classes, whether it's preventative care. That's the second pillar. A third one is, of course, to be able to kind of earn discounts and rewards, and that is, we call it offers. So essentially, you need to hold Sweat in order to get certain partner discounts, whether it's from Nike, Adidas, or any other health and wellness oriented product. The fourth one is what we spoke of before, kind of the workplace wellness aspect. So essentially employers and employees being able to use our app and our ecosystem to reward healthier habits among their employees. Mm-hmm. The fifth one is the big elephant in the room, as we spoke of before, the government incentives and including governments into seeing that they can incentivize value in movement, and they can make sure that movement is something that we all see differently, because it benefits not just ourselves, not just the people that we work with, but society as a whole. This is a given. But the sixth one is the most interesting one here, and related to what we just spoke of, and that is essentially health data monetization. So no one has been able to crack this before, but health data is extremely centralized today. My oldest brother is a PhD in Karolinska Institute in Sweden, and works a lot around health data. And I have a lot of insights into how it's stored, how it's managed. And it's a very, very, very centralized, rigorous process to tap into this kind of health data. And it's very privileged access, only for certain researchers or certain institutions, which of course is very undemocratic. And honestly, health data, as we see it, is probably a future asset, such as
surely
oil and the data that we already process today through attention. So what our vision is for the future of health data monetization is essentially to give, just like we did in the DAO vote, we give our users a choice. Do you want to share your health data, number one, with us? And if so, would you be willing to sell or monetize this data for sweat to third parties who are interested in analyzing that data? So that is our big vision for health data monetization. But for us, it's a lot more important to cater to the needs of the industry today. Right? We need to see our users today. How do we engage with them? How do we make them more not only physically active, but also more engaged and taking a prominent role in our ecosystem? Right? How do we tap into crypto natives and make sure that we have a very, very strong value proposition, not just for the curious, but also for the people who've been in the industry for many years? And here we work very closely with Ilya Polosukhin, the founder of NEAR protocol, because we are built on NEAR. For obvious reasons, there's really the only one that can scale to our level, the only blockchain that has such micro transaction fees to allow for our users to actually transact while earning sweat for walking. And yeah, through their technology, we are a very strategic partner of theirs, and they're ours. So we are building and implementing chain abstraction through what they call chain signatures, which is essentially, in a simple sentence, one NEAR account to transact on all chains. Yeah. Which is essentially the multi-chain dream world that we've been speaking of for many years in the industry.
Yeah, man. Which actually brings me to something I was very keen to ask you about. Being a marketing guru, but also being in Web3, I don't know when it was, 10, 15 years ago, whenever the retargeted advertising started becoming a big thing, especially in social media, but also in Google, where, I mean, these days, the kind of, the meme is, you mentioned something behind closed doors, and then all of a sudden you open up Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and there's an ad for that very thing you were just talking about, and who's listening, and or I'm searching for something, and then all of a sudden my feed is full of that particular thing, because of my identity is well known to the platforms that I'm using. So in Web3, my wallet is, people might not necessarily know that it's mine, but they can see my wallet and they can see what I'm doing and how I'm interacting with it. And then if somehow that wallet does become connected to me, my whole history is there, right there for anyone to be able to see. How do you think about this from, if you just put on your individual marketing guru hat at the moment? Surely for me, this seems like, mix that with kind of a big data play, like the kind of data you'd be getting at Sweat. There's some like phenomenal marketing opportunities. And it seems to me that based on even just those couple of instances you mentioned before about your community saying, oh, actually, we have great trust in you. have some data, have some knowledge about us. That's actually, on the one hand, that's quite an honor actually as a platform to have such a trusting user base in such a trustless industry and ecosystem perhaps. But then from a marketing perspective, yeah, again, I'm wondering what opportunities do you see there? What dangers do you see there? How are you thinking about this?
That's such an interesting point, because I literally just got off a call with a very interesting company called Addressable that literally addresses exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
Taking the data that you can collect publicly from any blockchain and connecting it to social profiles for targeting of ads.
Yeah, right.
So from a marketing standpoint, of course, this is gold, right? You know your target audience, you know exactly who they are, their net worth might be even, or you know what they're interested in, what they're playing, what they're interacting with, and in order to, depending on your campaign, you can wheel them in. So there is a lot of opportunity on that front for sure, but there is a ton of risk as well. Like you said, it's a badge of honor to receive trust in a trustless world, like Sweat does. But at the same time, we also need to be very, I would say, cautious around misusing that trust and making sure that we are not going into areas or avenues where blockchain and the public aspect of blockchain transactions, addresses, become a liability for millions of users around the world, even tens or even hundreds of millions. So we see great opportunity in targeting the right audience, whether that is the curious, whether specifically in this case then the crypto natives, whether you want to target certain chains. We suddenly now are expanding from Near to Binance Smart Chain. We're going to add EVMs. I'm not going to say exactly which ones first, because this is not made public yet. And of course, we're waiting for that announcement. But we are able to tap into new communities, and through blockchain analytics and partners such as Addressable, we can then target exactly those segments of users that we want to target for a specific campaign, which, like I said, as a marketer is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
But as someone who's very conscious about privacy and the rights of people to essentially have more of a private, I wouldn't say identity and persona. Anyone who's transacted on the blockchain hopefully knows that everything is in the public domain, and it's all publicly available data. Mostly, I would presume that not everybody knows that, especially if they're new to the industry. But I think that there is a lot more good that can come from that transparency and from that trust than abuse, at least from how I see it. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how we can tap into new communities as we expand the movement economy into other chains, and exactly use what you just said. Essentially, okay, well, how do we tie in certain blockchain accounts to whether they interacted with games, whether they acted with movement platforms in the past or not, whether they are high value DEX traders. It is all out there. And if you are able to process that data, you're definitely in a good position.
Yeah, man. Also thinking about marketing, being that everything is on chain and hard to maybe to fake things like one of the old school ways of trying to show the value in a particular project is the social proof of having 100,000 or 1 million Twitter followers or something like this. It's very hard to fake number of steps taken with an app. I do have memories of when the Nintendo Wii was a thing, and my kids would sit there with the controllers, like faking the steps to try to up their stats. But I'm sure that's it. You still have to do something. There has to be some sort of physical activity. Yeah, man, it seems to me like it's very difficult to fake in an industry where there's a lot of faking. And so given that it's maybe you have a more difficult time because you can't fake those kind of, 150,000 DAO users or this many people actually going for this many steps and those kinds of things. In what kind of ways do you think that the metrics that in my world, it's venture capital, so VCs look at this many followers, this many users, those kinds of metrics and even vanity metrics when it comes to engagement that in your particular situation are impossible to fake. How is it that you're approaching actual like real people doing real things from a marketing perspective? I guess how are you thinking about your marketing to your current users and to potential new users? What streams are you thinking about? Even philosophically, are you trying to use users as advocates to get new users, or are you going to where people are already into health and fitness and trying to bring them into your ecosystem, or are you going to people who are proverbial couch potatoes and trying to get them moving? How are you thinking through marketing at this stage?
First, it's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with what you asked about kind of capital allocators and VCs and what they're looking at, different metrics, and then we can go into user acquisition, which was your second part of the question. So we are convinced that we, as an industry, are in an infrastructure bubble. Okay. What do we mean with that? The railroads in the 1800s saw a huge investment influx into the railroads, right? Stations. But the problem was that no one was really building the carriages or considering, well, who's actually going to go on all these railroads?
Sure.
Same thing happened in the dot-com bubble, where the first investment into the internet was all infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And the real sustained value was actually after that in let's say Google, Facebook, Amazon, that actually came in and provided massive value for huge amount of users, right? Active users. Same thing, you can even do an analogy and a metaphor to the smartphone revolution, where once again, all the investment went directly into infrastructure and everybody forgot about the fact that, oh Lord, who's actually going to build all of these apps? Well, when iOS and Android and the app stores essentially became a thing, that is where the sustained real value came back, right? And that's where we have millions of apps and users around the world. And everybody forgot about infrastructure because it was already built. We are convinced that we are in the same place in crypto. Last few years, we've been seeing a massive amount of capital allocation into layer ones, layer twos, layer zeros, and the list goes on and on and on. But very few, and at least comparably little capital allocation to consumer crypto apps. And that is where we see the future of our industry. And in order to capture and sustain value of crypto, we need not only the railroads, we also need the carriages, the apps, and mostly we need the passengers, right?
Sure.
In order to be exactly. So that is where we're heading in terms of kind of where the VC and the capital allocators, we believe, is soon going to shift from infrastructure bubble to consumer crypto. And we are convinced that there is really no ecosystem in the world that can capture as many users and scale not to 10 million, not to 50 million, not even to 100 million, but to 1 billion, but movement economy. Why? Because first of all, we all understand intuitively that movement has value. Mm-hmm. And if you can invite through health and fitness and sustained longevity and good living. Not, like I said, not even millions. Like this is what we already proven. Even, at our side, on the Web3 side, with 14 million downloads, that's, very, I would say, quite an achievement in crypto. But
yeah,
even if you look at our Web2 partner, Sweatcoin, with 164 million downloads and more than 10 million monthly active users, it is simply proven, being still, over the last month, the most downloaded health and fitness app in the world with 3 million downloads. It is proving that, and it's really a proof, in my opinion, that this is the mainstream adoption app that will bring in 1 billion people into crypto. That literally is where all the carriages and all the passengers will come into. So that's a point on the kind of infrastructure bubble to consumer crypto, to what we see as, of course, a value of movement and building an economy around movement. In terms of users and user acquisition, this is a much more, I think, technical and interesting way of seeing things, because in order to attract crypto curious, you don't need a very mature wallet. You need to have the simple functions of store, send, receive, play a game, get some rewards, and so on. But in order to attract the crypto natives, you need a much more rigorous security system. You need a better value proposition than the 50 other top wallets in the world. And you need to essentially be able to build infrastructure and architecture that reflects those ambitions. So that's why we are after one wallet, one key, and one token, kind of the Sauron approach to one ring to rule them all. Because we really believe that, and I'm sure that how many hot wallets you have, Don, can you count on your hand?
No way.
No way, right? I'm sure you have MetaMask, you have Trust, you have Phantom, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? And how many accounts do you have inside of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, the problem with that is that it's a very inefficient and very inefficient way to manage assets, number one, but also it's terrible OPSEC. Mm-hmm. And it's a very complex solution to what is actually a simple problem. So what we're coming up with together with Near is to build what we call magic keys, which essentially is a fast authentication through one email that crypto curious can use to come in. But if you want to upgrade, you can directly upgrade to 12 words, 24 words. And if you want to upgrade even further, you'll be able to do ledger support. But the interesting part is that you will then tie it together with what we see as probably one of the strongest value propositions for crypto natives is chain abstraction, where you can manage. It's quite a new concept. Have you dived into Near's chain abstraction a bit?
I'm a big fan of chain abstraction, and I know there are a couple of chains starting to make it a core feature of their offering.
Yeah, so luckily we are so close to Near that we are essentially the guinea pig of this system, and we are, because of our scale, they can test new features, and we can do A/B testing on small segments and see if things work or not. And we actually did the first chain abstraction transaction on BNB a little while back, and now we are essentially adding that feature, which means that in the not far off future, in the foreseeable upcoming few months, you'll be able to transact on several EVMs as well as a few other chains through one Near account. And I think once we have that secured, our way to acquire more quality users will be a lot more diverse, because we don't have to just go after people who haven't touched crypto before. But actually, we have a value proposition that speaks to a much wider and more complete audience.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say to people who, oh man, I do want to talk about chain abstraction more, but we don't have heaps of time to go into it. What would you say, many of our listeners and viewers are founders, some are capital allocators as well, people who are builders or others who are just really keen to understand basically what is the bleeding edge of building the future and how to be a part of it. And for people in particular who might have communication skills like yours or experience or keen to develop them and get into a CMO role or anything in marketing, what do you think are some of the key, especially people who might look at Sweat and go, oh man, to have that many monthly active users and that engaged a community is like the holy grail in any company, let alone in Web3. How do you go from 0 to 1 in that regard? Can you think of some of the things that Sweat's done really well to get to the place where it is now? And like you say, now is not the finish line. You've got a massive goal still ahead. But from the idea to now, for the part that you've been there and the part that you understand from before you were there, what are the key lessons in terms of community building and communications in particular do you think that people, especially founders who are watching now, might be able to learn from your experience or Sweat's experience?
I'll take inspiration from another podcast. All in.
Yeah, love those guys.
Go all in. As in, like, there is nothing else. Dive deep into your soul. Understand where your passion is. Understand what you love in life. Come up with a vision. And even if everybody tells you that you're an idiot, that it cannot be done, that what you're doing is futile, that building an entirely new economy based around blockchain and movement, crazy? There is nothing that can stop you if you are convinced of your vision of the future. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And that is permeating not just myself, but our co-founder and CEO, Oleg, and our entire team, whether it's on product, design, QA, you name it. We can contribute to a better future, and we don't have to just take what little we have in this confusing and even more confused world by the day. We can actually do something that is useful to others, that is valuable to others. We can contribute, we can serve. And I think that is a very, very key word here. Be of service. Be of service to others, right? Don't think about yourself. Think about how can I be of service to anyone else, whether it's one person, 1 million people, or 1 billion. It does not matter. You provide value. And I think that is really the key to building something from 0 to 1, or in our case, then scaling from 10 million to 1 billion, which of course is a really, really privileged position to be in. But I didn't start here. Right? I started at the 10,000 to 4 million in my previous ecosystem. And that takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes sometimes, as I joined the industry in 2017, I cannot count how many sleepless nights sitting up reading research papers around the inception of Bitcoin, long before the Bitcoin white paper was out. Adam Beck and others, what they did essentially in the industry, and understand the history of what you're doing, because otherwise we cannot build the future unless we know our roots. So for me, as someone who absolutely is enthralled by what I'm doing, I'm also very passionate about history and understanding civilizations and ideas, and why certain ideas stick and why certain empires fall at the moment that they do. So I think in order to build a future, whether it's a small scale ecosystem or a very large scale ecosystem idea like we have, it comes down to the passion that you have. It comes down to how much are you willing to sacrifice to achieve that vision of the future. And most people are not willing to sacrifice that much. So if you are one of the men or women who decide that I am going to sacrifice I'm going to do those extra hours. I'm going to read that research paper. I'm going to not take no for an answer. Then you have an absolute edge, and then you can achieve anything.
Man, great answer. Really appreciate you delving into that as well. Man, we're kind of right at the end, but there's so much in there that I'd love to chat with you more about. Maybe after you make some of these big announcements later this year, we'll have you back on and we can go.
I would love to. Like I said, like these 3 research papers, I don't know if you can see it from here, University of Birmingham, Cadiz, Glasgow, and the Blockchain Research Lab. There is some incredible research around the value of movement in there that I myself, co-founder Oleg, and our team, and even our users, I think wouldn't have really thought about the methodologies used. How do you collect the data? So essentially what we tasked them with was to give us 3 estimates per research report, so on the individual, industry, and governmental level. And we're going to publicize this, like I said, in mid-September. And we're going to make a lot of noise around it because we believe that that is the first step to not only raising the public discourse around the value of movement, but also getting eyes from intergovernmental, governmental, and local governments on what we're doing and how we're benefiting for the good of society.
Yeah, man, that's huge.
So I'd be happy to come back, man.
That'd be great. Is there anything, I mean, obviously you're excited about that. Is there anything that beats out this research and what you're about to publish that you're even more excited about for, say, the back half of this year?
Oof. There's a lot of things on our roadmap. We are actually, like I said, later today, although this is going to be aired perhaps later, we're going to have a token holder briefing with our users who hold a certain amount of sweat, essentially being inspired by Tesla and other publicly traded companies. I think that it's important to have transparency into our operations, into our roadmap, into our marketing, into our tokenomics. So it's very important for us to give that insight and transparency. So I would suggest that you go and check out Sweat Economy on X. You check out Sweat Economy on YouTube and go in and see the token holder briefing, and then all will be laid out what's coming this half year by our head of product, Mike Brink, who is an absolute beast at what he does. So I cannot reveal too much today, Don, but because this is an exclusive token holder briefing, and before that, I do want to hold my word and always make sure that I stick to it. So
absolutely.
Make sure to check that out. And when I'm back later this year on the podcast, I'll reveal exactly what happened on the academic research, and as well as how building of the movement economy is happening. That's
awesome. If people want to find more from you or hear more from you, where can they find you online?
So you can find me on X at Misha Lederman. You can find us at Sweat Economy, and you can also find us at sweateconomy.com.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate your time and your insights and your personal reflections as well, man. Really appreciate it. Good on you.
I really, really appreciate all the eye-opening questions. It's been a pleasure sharing with you and your audience exactly what we do here at Sweat and our vision for the future, because we can definitely move a needle in not just how we perceive the value of our health and our wellness, but also how we as a society value movement around the world.
Good on you. Yeah, again, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Off-Chain Podcast. We love bringing in great guests like Misha, and hope we've inspired you to learn more about Web3, about technology, to think about the future and how you might be involved in building it. As always, like, subscribe, or better yet, share this episode with a friend. Help us spread the word, and join us again next week for another great episode of Off-Chain. Till then, take care.